Welcome back to the R20s podcast as we continue down our journey towards joy, finding immense amounts of joy in our life. I wanted to cover a topic that impacts a lot of our psyches and can hold us back from finding that immense level of joy in our life. And that one element, confidence. We've all heard the terms. Fake it till you make it, dance like nobody's watching. I'm a big fan of that second one, not going to lie. I've become more of a fan over time. It's a fun one. But it's much easier to say them than it is to put them into practice. I have struggled with confidence my entire life. Ever since I was a little kid. That's not even an exaggeration. Being on the playground, I never wanted to go interact with the other kids. I was always very shy. When I transitioned into middle school, I was known for not talking much. And as I progressed, I went through high school, went through college, I started to come more and more out of my shell to a point now where I'm still my number one critic, in bar none. But I'm at a point now where my confidence level has reached the point where I could do something like this, but I still struggle with confidence on a daily basis. What I see in myself is that there are times where I let confidence prevent me from going out and trying that new thing, picking up that new hobby, speaking to somebody new, because I have this self-imposed perception that I'm not good enough to do something like that, or I shouldn't be doing something like that because maybe there's too many eyes on me and I don't have the confidence level to just do what I think is right. But even though I continue to struggle, I know it's like physical exercise. We can train our body to be healthier in terms of cardiovascular health. We can lift more weights, run faster, be stronger. We can train our minds too. And we don't think about that enough. That our mental health is a muscle like anything else. We can train our minds to do incredible things. And one of those things that we can train our minds to do is be more confident. So today I'm calling in some reinforcements. Instead of doing a solo show talking about confidence, which I openly admitted to, I struggle. I'm not the authority on this. I called in someone who's a bit better than I am when it comes to being confident. So for today, my guest, my cousin, Cassie Fraioli. Today is not as much of a traditional interview as it is just more of a great conversation with someone who I know is going to talk incredibly candid and is going to be very thoughtful on a topic that I know impacts so many people of our age. As we'll get into today, Cassie has certainly had a profound impact on my confidence levels increasing drastically. Today, we take a deep dive into how Cassie goes about building confidence, staying true to herself, the differences between the male and female perspective. That's a good part of the conversation you're not going to want to miss, and much more. Once again, thank you for listening to the R20s podcast. Without further ado, Cassie Fraioli. I like to start off the interviews, but what I've been doing so far is I ask something about like the guest's childhood and stuff like that to get all deep and stuff. But the real purpose of the question is childhood is such a formative period for how we become who we are. And when I'm talking with like friends and family and everyone I've talked with so far, like not family, I should say, just friends. When you ask the childhood question, you can get it like a little bit of information more from your friend than maybe you know about, but I know you so well that I can't ask that
Yeah,
question.
I'm not gonna have any surprises for you.
No, what are you gonna be like? Oh, I was a Russian spy when I was a child, and it formed
Tom,
me.
you would have no idea what I've gone through.
So I'm gonna rephrase the question.
Okay.
If your friends or your family, not me, because I'm doing the interview, but if they're listening to this interview, what's one thing your friends and your family wouldn't say about you, but you would say about yourself? What's one thing that you do that you think is a part of who you are, but maybe it just doesn't go realized?
um, this is a really good question. Uh, About what I do or who I am?
Either one. What I guess that's kind of the same question. The way I'm trying to phrase it, of you'll see when I get to the segue of what I wanted to do here, but it it's more of who you are. We'll phrase it that way, not what like the
Okay.
actions that you do, not like what you do, because like your profession,
Okay.
like your profession is an extension of you, but
I've got it.
how you are and like the things,
I've
the
got it.
actions
I
that you take.
think that my demeanor is very like rar,
Yeah, yeah.
rar, but actually I'm very like very sensitive and very caring. And I think that like if you ask my mom that on a good day, she might say that, but anyone else, definitely not. Like my sister introduces me to her friends as the bully sister.
Oh,
That's what I got.
that's demeaning. A
That's
little
what I
bit.
got on New Year's Eve. But I said, I mean, I guess I come off as that, but I'm not really.
I don't think you are. I think it's because people don't know you to the extent that I do. But the word that
I
I was
also
going
have
to,
a big wall up.
yeah,
So
I
unless you know me, you're not gonna get that.
that's very true. I think a lot of us put a wall up because for different reasons.
Yeah.
I think I put a wall up because of the reason I wanted to talk to you today, and it is the word that I would use to describe you. That I think maybe some people will use other word, but they won't use this one, and it's confident. I don't know
Okay.
what I don't know what it is about you and where it came from, but the amount of confidence that you have is exorbitant. It's on a different level than anyone in our family, in my eyes, anyway.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And I want to dive deep into this topic of confidence because it's something that a lot of people our age struggle with so much.
I would
And
love to. That sounds so fun.
yeah, and that's why I want to have you here today
And
because
that's why you have a niche in podcasts, because I would have never thought to go into that, but I love it.
thank you. So, confidence. I'll ask you just the broad question first and foremost. Where do you think your confidence comes from?
My parents.
Yeah.
I think it comes a lot from my parents and how I was raised and the outlook on life that I was just given.
Can you go a little deeper into what you mean by the outlook? Because I definitely think parenting plays a huge role in our formative years, where if you have a strong support system like you do, obviously with my aunt and uncle, your mom and dad, they support you. They're not going to shoot you down if you have an ambition that maybe goes against the grain of what they did. It's not traditional, as
Yeah,
some would call it. You have complete freedom and you have complete support to investigate whatever you want to, and they're going to be behind you whether you fall or whether you're succeeding. I definitely think
absolutely.
that plays a huge role. Can you just
Hmm.
go in a little more into what do you mean by the outlook on the world? Like, what is your outlook on the world and how the world reacts to you? So, if you put something out into the world and you see something going on in the world, how are you viewing it in terms of okay, maybe this is happening in the world today, but I'm going to stay confident because I have this view on the world.
So to me, obviously the world is such a huge thing and we can't grasp everything that happens in the world all at once, but how I ground myself is my own little world. What's going on around me, who surrounds me, what are the things that happen around me. And I am a very deep thinker. I think about everything that happens. So sometimes for some people that is like a tragic thing, but for me I use each of those thoughts as like a learning experience. So growing up, I would question everything. And I still do now. I would be like, well, how come this person treated me this way? Or how come I got that look? Or why is this happening? Whatever it was in regards to. And the response would either be, Cass, people don't understand what's going on in your world, or Cass, maybe people want something that you have, or Cass, maybe they're just not interested. And to me, I think that was like a huge lesson that I heard like a lot and over again. And that kind of taught me that we're in our own little worlds. Maybe someone doesn't care. Maybe someone does care. Maybe you're just overthinking this. And you have to kind of just be in that place of, okay, I feel better when I make myself look cute for the day and where I hold my shoulders high and I'm ready to just go and face the day. So I think that's kind of just how I try to wake up and approach my life.
Overthinking is something I have struggled with for the
Hmm.
longest time. And it was something that I didn't know what it was during those most transformative years of my teens, especially going throughout late middle school, early high school, transitioning into college. It was a term I wasn't introduced to about what it actually means. But I think it is the center point of what causes people to lose confidence in themselves
Hmm.
because you're so concerned with what other people are going to think of you. Every little action that you do, you think all eyes are on you on all the time. If I choose to wear this today as opposed to wearing something else, someone's not going to think the same way that they used to think of me before. If I say the wrong thing, oh my gosh, my life is over. Everything like that. We
Don't
have
worry, you're
this.
fabulous, Thomas.
Thank you so much. So do you. Jeez, it's hard to be serious with you, uh, but we're gonna try. um, but the notion of all eyes on you at all times, it's not true. As much as some people might like to think that it is true, that in especially in the world we live in now, where attention is at such a focal point with social media, people want eyes on them all the time. I mean, I want eyes on this. That this is why I produce this. Obviously, if I wanted to keep it private, it would have just been a phone call.
Of
So
course, yeah.
yeah, but it's a line that you have to learn how to walk, where you want the attention, but at the same time, you have to know that if it doesn't go your way, like the dogs, that I guess the dog agreed.
Sorry.
That's fine. If it doesn't go your way, you have to be okay with it because you're doing what's important to you, and that's what I admire about you is you always do what you set your mind to. You don't focus on what other people think of you, or at least I get that perception from you. Um, you are just always so confident in your own decisions, and
So, thank you. I
you're
will tell
welcome.
you though, from my own perspective, just like anyone else, I hear things, I feel things, I see things. And I do have that very straightforward, confident demeanor that you talk about. And I appreciate that you recognize it. But I
Mhm.
will say, too, coming from my perspective, that if I could tell you and the viewers anything, it's not always, roses and butterflies.
Yep.
It's thinking through things. If someone said something to me that upset me, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to be upset, but then I'm going to get to the point where I'm like, you know what, this is my life. If there is something I can change, absolutely, I'm going to take that and I'm going to make that change. But if I'm confident in how that situation went, or whatever we're talking about, if I'm confident in how I handled it, then I'm just going to lift my head up and go about with it. So I still go through the trials and tribulations of overthinking and having those moments, but at the end of the day, which is going to reflect better on the outside, me walking around with my head down or me walking around with my head held high? So that's kind of just the outlook I take, and I take my time to process things like anyone else would. But I'm good at mediating that.
Yeah. And could you go a little more into your process? Is there any specific actions that you take? Is there anything that you do specifically? Like, I don't know, for some people, taking a long shower allows them to have plenty of time to think, listening to music, anything, something that seems so small, but it's so critical to getting back to a place of being even keeled and having a clear head as to, what's truly important. You're not thinking about something that could be, arbitrary or something that's so minuscule that it's taking up such a large spot in your mind. Do you have that one thing that you go to?
I wouldn't say one thing. I have a few things that I do to kind of like ground myself.
Okay.
Um, with overthinking comes just constant motion in your mind, as I'm sure you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I have to slow myself down before I can actually think about anything and try to process anything. So, first step to that, right here, I have my chamomile tea.
Nice.
And in my mug that I purposely have for you today, it says count your lucky stars. And I thought
Beautiful.
you would like that. Um, but anyway, I like my tea. I like to slow down and just like have my tea. And while I'm doing that, I like to do certain like breathing techniques. I love meditations, um, focusing on what my body is telling me. Because when I try to think about what my mind is telling me and what the outside world is telling me, I like start to get almost hyper active in my thoughts. Um, so I slow myself down. And then I really like to think about things. Sometimes I like to go on walks and think about things. Sometimes I'm just driving home from work and I'm thinking about things, but it's just giving myself that quiet time to actually process what my mind is trying to say to me.
I think that's very powerful because the idea of being alone for so many people our age is something that amplifies these feelings. Where when we feel alone and that we can't share what's going on in our own mind, we feel disconnected.
Mhm.
And it kind of ties into that idea of people just don't understand what's going on in my mind. So why would they care for me? Why would they even want to have eyes on me in the first place? But I think alone time is something that I guess we're still very young, but as I've gotten older, more mature, alone time is something that I value a lot
Right?
more
Age
than I used
23.
to. Yeah, I know, the ripe age of 23, ready to head into the nursing home. Um, but alone time is something that I try to work into my day now. where it used to be. It still is. I try to make time for my friends and family, obviously, but it's important for me personally, where I have 30 minutes of prayer, where I have a couple minutes of just going for a walk. Nobody else is invited. It's just me and myself.
Leave me alone,
Um,
please.
please. What's your thought on our generation's relationship with being alone? Because it's something that I hear a lot from, and I'm interested for your perspective too on the girl side. Because what I hear a lot from guys, and myself included, where the place I was at for especially college, where a lot of people are in relationships, have significant others, partners, you feel a sense of you're losing your self worth if you're alone on a consistent basis. And being alone is a symbol of either there's something wrong or something isn't going right in terms of the way you're portraying yourself out into the public, the way that you're acting, the way that you're carrying yourself, your confidence level. But I don't necessarily think that needs to be the case, because I think maybe while you're alone, you're being more particular with who you are. You're trying to find yourself, be more confident with who you are. So maybe one day that you can go out and you can find a partner. So I'm interested on your personal perspective, and maybe if you have a perspective just on the girl side as a whole, like what is your overall thoughts
So
on loneliness?
my my thought of being alone is, so everyone struggles with this, as you said. It depends on the day. If I'm in an attached state, I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
Um, so I really think it's a mentality kind of thing. But what I do think about a lot is this: if you catch a girl or even a guy sometimes fresh out of a relationship, they're hurt. They're losing sight of a lot of things that make them who they are. They're doing
Hmm.
things that aren't normal, and they'll post things, and you hear people say, "Oh, they must have just broken up with so and so and this and that." And when you think more in depth about something like that, it's because that person is losing sight of who they are. And it's because they had this companion who was so close to them, and helped to give them validation about who they were. And the minute they lose that validation, they kind of just spiral into, okay, I need to find it again. Here is going to be me going hyperactive and showing you this is who I am.
Yeah.
Until a huge believer, by the way, and fake it till you make it. So I'm not talking poorly about that. But you see that fake it happen. And I think part of the loneliness or alone time is that stage for you to say, okay, this hurts, but who am I? Where am I? How can I pull that up in a positive way that's going to make me feel good? Not just with that post where I look cute, right? Because that's a temporary fix. You may get 2 minutes of attention, but if you're looking for that attention, what are you actually looking for? So I think giving yourself that moment to take that silence and have that loneliness is painful for a lot of people, because you have to go through that hurt to find out what it is that you need. um but I think it's really foundational to start yourself up again, or else you're gonna miss out on who you really are in the process.
I really like that point of what are you looking for when you're looking for attention. There's kind of an analogy where somebody will say, "Oh, I really want to eat a lot of pizza because it's going to make me feel good in the short term. I love pizza. Who doesn't love pizza?" You eat the pizza, you feel great, but then next day you wake up, got the worst stomach ache you've ever felt in your whole life.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I eat the pizza and feel great, but I eat the pizza.
You certainly eat the pizza. You look at it, it
I eat
looks
the
really
pizza.
appetizing, but you think to yourself, I what I want for myself right now is just to feel good. I want the pizza. I Pizza brings me this sense of, oh my gosh, yes, pizza. Who doesn't love pizza? And you eat it, and maybe longer down the road, you don't feel as good. When you're looking for short term little stints of attention, it feels good right away. You put out something to the world, and people like it, and you can physically see them liking it. You can see the reactions to it, but you're doing something purely to get eyes on you. You're not doing something to build a long term sense of connection, first of all, and you're not doing something to build a long term goal. Maybe if you're just posting something on social media, you're just posting something to get attention. You're not trying to build
Yep,
a community.
yep.
I think that is something our generation specifically gets wrong a lot, where we focus too short term and we're not patient and we're not comfortable with who we are, that we look for short spurts of validation to give us that rush immediately.
Right.
But it's like a drug, and there's been so many scientific studies on it that it is a drug where you get that dopamine reaction and you want to keep seeing those likes increase. You want to keep seeing more eyes on you at all times, and you are just constantly trying to find more ways to get attention instead
Right.
of, like you said, trying to build connection, which I think is the real key. When it comes to connection for you, when even not even in the partner sense, when it just comes to having connection with friends, having a solid connection with your family, what's the building block for you? Because I think with your level of confidence, with your level of demeanor, you're able to connect with so many people on so many different wavelengths. What's the universal building block in all relationships for you, that if you have this set up, you're able to build upon it from then and there, and there's no questions asked?
To build a relationship, I need to know that I can trust a person. Um, that is I mean, I'm as high maintenance as it gets, so I can't say that's all it takes, but I really think that trust for me, like, that's one of those things, if I don't trust you, if I don't trust that you're looking out for me, I'm looking out for you, then I cannot open up to you. Um, and I've seen it happen time and time again with relationships with past friends or something like that, where I'll come off as this cold person, but the reason I'm cold is because I don't know about your intentions with me yet.
Yeah.
And so if I don't have that trust, that mutual trust between the two of us, whatever our relationship is to each other, then I will close off to that full relationship. That doesn't mean that I'll be mean to you, but I won't open up to you. You won't have that same connection that I might have with other people.
Maybe it's genetic, because I think the same way and I get the same kind of reaction, where if you were to meet my good friends now, like 3 or 4 years ago, and you were to be like, "Oh, that guy's my cousin." They would probably say something along the lines of, that guy is like the scariest person I've ever come across in my entire life. Like, how are you guys related?" I've gotten that so many times, but
Have you
not
actually?
oh my gosh,
You come off as the most
unreal.
gentle, kind person I know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Not even a compliment, serious, because I'm the one that they're like, "Cass, don't kill me," and I'm like, "I'm not. I'm about to give you some flowers."
Maybe it's just us. Maybe we're crazy, but
I I guess
I'm telling you, it hasn't happened a lot recently. Maybe because I'm not making as many friends as I was when we were
things
first
slow
coming into college. But when I was first going in to make friends, so many of them, my friends who are my friends now, they weren't my friends then, but they were saying, when I first met you, I just really thought you didn't like me for some reason, and I was
That's
just like, what? Why would you?
hysterical. Maybe it's her face.
That's what they said. They were just
Like,
like,
I
"It's your
get that all the
face."
time.
It they were
That's
like,
yeah,
"It's"
give her the F.
yeah, it literally, they were like, "No, it's just your face." And we're having this whole conversation when it comes to confidence, and talk about something that was a little bit of a, like, a confidence killer, where I was like, I can't even control this right now. Like, I'm not trying to
Then
do
stop
this.
looking at me.
I was like, literally, I got my hand in front of my face. I'm just like, "Please," like, like, I'm gonna go like this and just smile,
I just
but
dig myself a hole right now.
seriously. But
Tunnel in.
it's little things like that where you're trying to work on how you build a relationship, and something for me is, like you said, trust. It's so big. I'm not gonna throw myself into a relationship with a family member, with a friend, with a partner, if I don't have complete trust that that person's gonna be there for me. Because why would I'm not gonna waste my time, and that might sound a little elitist, but it's the truth. I'm not gonna try to build a relationship if you have no intention of being completely open and honest with me. That's not the type of relationships that I'm in the business of creating. So when you're trying to build a relationship first and foremost, and I've been working on it actively, just trying to be more friendly when going out and trying to have,
Hi.
yeah, like what, like Judy Hop from Little Zootopia. She's just like popping up. Hey,
Hi.
nice to meet you. Um,
People would be like, "Whoa,
well,
whoa."
take it easy. It's the little things like that where it's something that goes so overlooked, because I don't think about that on a daily basis. I don't think about what my face looks like when I'm not thinking about anything, and it can immediately kill my personal confidence, and it can immediately kill any sort of chance of building a relationship. And I think like you said, it's that overthinking. Those little things build up over time. And when I was starting college, it was so difficult for me to get over so many little things that just added up over time. Such small things that didn't matter, like me having a RBF or me just saying something wrong, like having a poor first introduction, just fumbling over my words and just being like, oh, I just made a fool of myself. And then I would think about it and think about it, and I would let it ruin my day. And that's something that I never want to feel again, where I let so many little things build up during that time that I would let it affect my demeanor. And maybe it wasn't just that RBF. I was just letting those internal emotions show on my face a little bit, where I'm so self-conscious about what's going on, and
Hyper focus.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And just having you there during that time was so incredibly important to me becoming who I am now. I don't think you even understand. Um it was just something that was such a blessing in disguise. And
To you,
I
maybe
mean,
not to me, but
yeah, maybe just it's just one-sided now. You can go home now. I'm just gonna fawn over how wonderful you are. You can just, I don't know, maybe pretend to
yeah,
listen
come on,
for a
my
little
head's
bit.
getting too big.
But
Stop.
I wanted to get your perspective on especially the first year. What was it like for you in terms of transitioning into college? And it's a difficult time for a lot of people. It was a difficult time for me, and I'll get into it further once I hear what you have to say. But again, at least on the outside to me, you never struggled with that confidence. You were always very quick to be able to build new relationships and transition into this new stage in life where you're becoming more independent. You're becoming more of an adult. What was
So
that really like for you though? Because I know you
far
said that
from it,
you're,
actually.
yeah.
Um, I struggled a lot freshman year. Confidence. So my confidence kind of goes hand in hand for me with that RBF that you're talking about. It's like this demeanor that I don't even mean to have, and it's just there. And it's hard for me to explain it because I grew up with you. You know how much of a homebody I am. Family is everything to me. Like before college, I didn't want to have sleepovers. Like it I didn't want to. Sorry, my dogs are killing each other behind me right now.
It's fine. It's good background noise. It's like white noise machine when you're trying to go to sleep.
Say hello.
Hello.
Okay. So anyway, I was very attached to being home. And when I had to transition to college, it was very hard for me because that was like my prime loneliness. Like, as much as I was meeting friends, I hadn't developed that trust yet with anybody. And so I didn't feel like I had anyone. Um, and there were a couple of weeks where I actually had called my mom and I was like, I don't have anyone here that I click with yet. And I don't know if this is going to work out. And she was like, Cass, you have to stick it through. People face this when you start something new, when you're meeting new people, right? And I did. And I ended up finding a great group of friends that I went all through college with. But I think that transitionary phase was extremely hard. And I got to know a lot of people very quick. I made a lot of friends that you walk by when you pass them and you say hi. It's good to see you, but
Mhm.
there weren't many deep leveled connections. Um, and that's because it was hard for me to actually get to know so many of those people on those deep levels. So I kept that confident face and I had my core group of friends eventually, but it was not always best friends with everyone, which is how it looked from the outside.
Yeah. When you get to that deep level, do you know it? Does a switch just go off and you feel it? Is there a particular moment where maybe you're conversing about something that you didn't think you would ever be conversing about? Or just maybe you just share like a look and you just know that you feel comfortable with this person? It is it something that just kind of transitions over time where you feel
Um,
now, okay, this is it, or is it just like a moment in time and you feel it?
I think that my click would be that I know I'm safe.
Yeah.
And that could be in a number of things. That could be in a conversation. That could be in the fact that I left a party alone and I got a text, "Are you home safe?" That could be that could be a variety of things, but I know that I have an equal care for someone when they're checking on me and I'm checking on them.
Yeah.
And whether that's with you, like I don't have religion conversations with people a lot of the time, but I have had that with you, and I've been in a safe place to kind of laugh at you and just make jokes even though I know it's a safe conversation, and we're on the same page about many of things. But it really just depends that if I know I can be myself, if I know that that person is looking out for me, are you safe? Are you okay? Can I be here and can I be sad safely? Like, I think that's my click moment, because especially in those vulnerable states in the beginning of college, you don't know what you're up against. So you feel those vulnerable states. And if you have someone who's there and listening, that speaks volumes.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And I
Right?
wanted to ask that question because it transitions to my relationship with you. Have I ever told you the story of how I ended up at Fairfield University? Or no? Does
I don't
anyone?
think so.
So stop me if you've heard it before. So I was coming out of high school. Well, not even coming out of high school. It was senior year of high school. And all I wanted to do was go to the U.S. Military Academy.
Mm.
I didn't focus on anything else. I honestly didn't apply to any other colleges seriously. You had the college essay you're supposed to fill out. I wrote like 10 sentences for each of them. I was like, okay,
Very good
I'm
studies.
not even worried about it. I do all my stuff for the U.S. Military Academy. I'm all excited. And then they come back and they're like, oh, you have a nut allergy. You can't come here.
Was that actually
And,
why?
oh yeah, that was full on the reason why. There's it's like a two-step process where you have to get what they call congressionally nominated. So I got congressionally nominated by our local congresswoman. So I got that done. Test scores were good, like good enough to get in, as I was told by the recruiter. Um, I was looking at potentially doing stuff with the baseball team to like help my recruitment. That never really went anywhere, so I'm not even going to include that. But it
Forget
all
about that.
all all indications were pointing towards yeah, everything was looking fine, and I knew going into it that there was a chance that I couldn't get in based on my allergy. But I didn't. I was young and I didn't really care. And I had
I mean,
read that the food that they eat, they use peanuts, but they don't use tree nuts. So
Tom,
I
if you
rationalized
went
them.
to combat and they dropped a bag of nuts on your head, you'd be done. So
That's what
I
I'm
understand
saying. I guess it was too much of a liability. But
can't lose a summer like
I
that.
knew it was a very high likelihood going into it, but I wanted to do it anyway just to see what would happen. And I'm not in hindsight, I'm not mad that it happened because I knew it was going to happen in the back of my mind. I was like, I'm going to get denied for this, and that's just
You to see
the
it.
scenario. I just didn't want that to be the reality. I wanted what I wanted, and I was too thick in the head to properly apply to other schools that I wanted to go to. So I think in total, including the military academy, I sent out 12 applications to different schools, and I got denied by 10. And the ones I got into were Manhattan, where my sister got into, and then I got into UConn. So by default, I was like, I'm not going to Manhattan because my sister goes there, so I'm going to go to UConn. So I go tour UConn. It was 3 hours away or so. I was like, all right, this campus is cool. There's not much around, but it's cool. And it's the only other school I got into. And then we're on the way home, and my parents were like, so we think UConn's a little too far away and we don't want you to go to UConn. So
Mm.
we actually applied for you to this school called Fairfield University. It's in Connecticut. And the great part about Fairfield University is that they can feed you at their cafeteria. And we love that. And I legit cried. I was like, you are not sending me to some school that I've never even heard of. I don't want to. And they were like, well,
You
you're going to
can't
see it
make me,
next
I
week.
won't do it.
Strap myself to this chair right now. I'm not leaving. But they were like, nope, you're gonna go tour it next week. We're just gonna. It's basically just like a formality at this point. Like you're just gonna go see it, and then you're gonna go here because they can feed you.
Yeah, there you go.
And I was like, are you kidding?
I can't tell
And
if this is a joke or not.
no, this is dead serious. This is the
Oh god.
story of how I got to school.
Oh god.
So like the night before I'm going to school, I don't care anymore. I legit just like crying. I was like, I'm not going. I'm not doing it. Like this is not what I want my life to be. I don't want to go to this school. I wanted to go to the military academy. I wanted to go do something like that. Like I'm not going to school to do like regular stuff is what I called it at the time.
You don't want to go to a regular place.
And my parents were like this close. They were like, fine, you don't have to go to school. Like that close because I was so upset. But I went, and when I first got there, I was so not in a state of mind where I was allowing myself to even enjoy the experience.
Right.
I was so focused on my previous failure of what I had not done going to school that I wanted
Right.
to. And I let it affect me so badly when it came to building my relationships. And at such a key time when you first get to school, when you're supposed to be interacting with everybody and anybody. And I was just so like, I don't want to be here. This is not me. Like, why am I here right now? And it really got to a point where I felt it wasn't even true was the worst part. I felt isolated in my own head because I was isolating my own thoughts, just thinking so deeply about myself. Meanwhile, I had a great roommate. I had a great set of teammates who I had met when I joined the rowing team. I had so many people around me.
Yeah.
But and again, it's not to toot your own horn. The one person who got me through it was you. And it was because you were there and I had that relationship that we talked about, a long-winded way to bring this all back, but I wanted to share the story of I had that undying trust in you that you would be there for me if I needed you, no matter what time of the day it was, no matter what I was going through. I had someone there who I could rely on. And I didn't want to leave that situation and try to go to another situation where I would have to be completely on my own and have to figure it out for myself. And especially that first year, when you were there for me, no questions asked, and you continued to be there for me the entirety of our time throughout school. I don't think I've expressed it to you in words enough, just how much it meant to me in terms of me being at the point of who I am now, where I can feel confident in who I am because your confidence sheds on other people. You when you're in your presence, I feel better about who I am. I feel more secure with who I am. I feel more joyful. I feel just more expressive of who I am. I don't feel I need to hide who I am, which I feel like I need to do a lot of times. And I don't even know if you realize this about yourself, just the effect that you have on so many people in your life, whether it's our family, who I think completely agree, whether it's your friends, whether it's people who you just come across. You are such a light in the world, and I can't thank you enough. It's not really a question, but I just wanted to do that little
No,
thing because
I wanna
it's so important to me. And
oh, well, I wanna say
yeah,
excuse my dog. I wanna say thank you because obviously that does mean a lot, and I think even more than that, as much as I was there for you, I think every time I got that Cass, what are you doing? I was kind of like, okay, I'm on my way. Like that was important for me too. And I think on the topic of confidence and everything that you just said, part of feeling good and happy about yourself is knowing that you can do good for others.
yeah,
Um, and I think when I'll go into a situation that someone's upset and I try to brighten the situation, it makes me feel better that I could have helped someone. And that's something that if you ask any of the people in my past about me, they'd be like, "Yeah, Cass is not that type of person." But maybe that's why I have this confidence because to me, I like to believe that there are those people in my path that I have brightened their lives, that I have helped them with something. And there are those people for me, and I can list those people. But it's just that hearing it from you validates so much for me, and it as confident as I am, I need that too.
yeah,
um so that does mean a lot, but I think too that you played a huge role in my transition too. I mean, there were so many times where I was alone and called mom, and she was like, you have Tommy, he's there. And I always knew that, and I knew that if I transitioned to somewhere else in that normal phase that a lot of college students go through, that I would lose that security, that I wouldn't necessarily have that. I mean, we're so fortunate to now have had four of the Fraioli bloodline
yeah. That's
go
crazy.
through the school. So I think that security is there and shines for a couple of the family members.
Yeah, and I think you're here right now, but it speaks for all the family members and just the relationship that we have as a family, where I have all of you to rely on, and I don't have to question that, and it's such a reassuring feeling where I I know so many people in my life that don't have that relationship with their immediate family. When I say immediate, I mean like parents, siblings.
Or family at all.
That's what yeah, that's
Yeah. You
something
know?
that it's so crucial to who I am. It's so crucial to who you are. It's so crucial to who our whole family is. We're so tight knit and we're so focused on each other where I can't imagine my life without the extent of family in it that I
I know.
currently have.
I know.
It's just such a blessing, and I know we don't normally talk about religion, but it's one of the biggest blessings in my life to know that I have my family in it, and it's something that I thank my God for every single day that I pray and I think about it because I know it could have been so different. I know all it took was being born in a different state or just a different county,
I know.
but we weren't, and we've stuck together throughout this entire time, and I'm sure the day will come where maybe proximity creates a barrier between us,
I
but
mean,
I
what, we're
I
an
know
hour and a half apart right now and we still talk enough?
that's
Not
what I was
enough.
gonna say. Even I would be so confident that if I were halfway across the country or halfway across the world, we would still find a way, and that's such a great feeling to have. And talk about a confidence booster when I have those thoughts now where I convince myself that I'm alone somehow, or I convince myself that I'm not good enough. I just think about that that's not true because I know who I am with the most important people in my life, and that's my family.
Right.
And
No, I mean,
that's one of the reasons
it's a
why
huge
when sorry, go ahead.
it's a huge point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I would be here doing this show if it wasn't for you and my family because I wouldn't have the confidence I am in who I am. And the main reason I wanted to start doing interviews, it was because I wanted to start just having these fun conversations with people that are just so important in my life and just building that relationship further. It's shocking. Just you have a sit down for a little bit like an hour and you just talk about with the people you care about the most. Just stuff that's been on your mind that you maybe don't get to say in another type of setting, but you have their full attention for an hour and a half.
I think
And
too, for the listeners, I put myself in the shoes of someone who I can't put myself in the shoes, but I try to put myself in the shoes of someone who maybe doesn't come from that same family environment. And I think to hear the foundation of the things that make this family so important are the things we look for in those important relationships to us are really helpful to people who maybe don't have the same experiences as us, but they have that one person in their life that gives them that feeling. Or even if it's in an internal thing where they know that, you know what, maybe I don't have someone that I can go to with that full dependency right now, but you know what, I know that I have this, or
yeah,
I know, like, they can just take that away from this to see the things that we do provide for each other that then teach us we need to provide that for ourselves. So I think this conversation goes full circle back to, yes, how do we deal with loneliness, but then how do we take everything that other people have given us to gain what it is that we were looking for with that Instagram post,
exactly.
right?
It's the intention of why we do the things that we do.
Right.
The intent if the intention's not right, then nothing in your life will be correct.
Right. Of course.
And at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Hmm.
Transition a little bit. We talk about you being so confident and it certainly rubbing off on me, certainly rubbing off on our family members, but you're also a teacher. You also now are responsible for how many little ones are in your classroom now?
I have 20 little ones.
20 individual little people. And when you focus on like it's not a class, it's like 20 individual people and
20
they
little
are
humans.
humans. You're
We
responsible
were
for
reading we were reading a book the other day in one of our reading groups, and they were aliens that were coming to Earth, and they referred to the humans as human beings.
nice
And my kids had so much fun with that, and I did too. So I just wanted to share that I have 20 little human beings.
human beings. I
Human
like that.
beings.
I'm gonna use that from now on too.
Human being.
In public settings too. I'm just gonna be like,
You see those
I am
human
a
beings?
I am a human being, and I'm just gonna get who?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you are responsible for shaping 20 little human beings. Same, it's the same kind of thing. Maybe one day those kids are gonna grow up to have a similar type of conversation we are right now about what works for them in terms of finding confidence. How do you go about instilling that into your students? Someone who is younger than you, first and foremost, but you're in a leadership role to them. Meanwhile, if they heard this kind of conversation, we're just like them. We're just little kids at heart. And
Yeah.
now you're just kind of passing it down to someone who's just a little tinier version of us.
Well,
But when you're in that role, what do you think?
Tommy, that's exactly it. We're
Yeah.
kids at heart. Administration, they say, I love young teachers. And it's because young teachers go in with the heart of this is why we love this profession. This is why we do this. We're just kids too.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that, you know, it's something that I have set as my pedagogical goal as a teacher to be someone that inspires these kids to make it through their life with confidence. That happens through conversation every day. That happens through how I carry myself. I walked into the cafeteria the other day with a student that wasn't even mine, and I was just going to talk to another teacher, and one of the students walked up to me and went like this and just like shrugged his shoulders and like did a confident walk. And I guess it was just because of how I was carrying myself. And I was honestly okay with that. And so maybe just the way I walk around is one way I influence people. But as far as my students are concerned, for example, Halloween, all the kids were whatever they wanted to be. And the previous year, one of my students was, she dressed up as an old lady and she gave herself the gray hair. And a lot of the students gave her the name that she was a granny or something along those lines. And I remember that I wasn't there for this because I'm new to the school, but the mom told me that that student had felt really sad that the students had had called her that. Um, and I went up to her and I said, "You know, that costume I heard you had last year was really well done. Everyone admired it for what it was." And she was like, "Yeah, you know, I didn't like it because people called me a granny." And I said, "Well, isn't that what you wanted to be?" And I said, "So even though maybe you got the idea that they didn't like it because they were making fun of you, quote unquote," I said, "You achieved your goal."
Yeah.
I said, "So this year you look fabulous. Your costume's wonderful. Your friends know who you are, right?" And you could just tell a weight was lifted off her shoulders. So for me to instill this mentality in the kids, it's having conversations with them when they're feeling low. You know, when you get that kid who's frustrated and says, "I'm not smart," I will say something like, "Do you know how to cross the street? Do you know how to look both ways? You're smart."
Pretty smart.
So it's giving them that ounce of confidence and taking them away from the negative side, because even like we've been talking about this whole time, once we overthink it, once we convince ourselves that something is so bad, or we've done something so bad, then we automatically fall into that ball of darkness.
Yeah.
But pulling yourself out with that one thing, well, maybe you're right. I can walk across the street and look both ways, or I can make a friend. So that's kind of something I just try to instill in them every day. And I've seen from the beginning that they're growing already, which is huge because they're 8 years old.
Yeah.
So
Even at the adult level, if you want to call that for what we are, I wouldn't call us adults.
I don't know about that.
I call us children in larger bodies.
Mhm.
The adage I heard not too long ago, which I really like, is instead of looking at how much farther you have to go up the mountain you're climbing, if you're not afraid of heights, take a look down for a second and just look at how far you've actually come.
Yeah.
Especially when you're struggling with your self-confidence, when you're playing that comparison game with your, whether it's classmates in this case, or your peers who maybe have a more elite status job than you do, have a nicer car than you do.
Right.
You're playing the comparison game with someone who's not trying to play with you, because you're not supposed to play the comparison game. You're in your own game. You're just in your own head. And instead of thinking about how much farther you need to go to accomplish some goal that maybe when you even get there, whether that goal is like a new car or something, you'll enjoy it for a day and then you'll be like, all right, whatever, car. But you look down at how far
Monetary
you've come,
things
and
don't last long when it comes to stuff like that.
no material. I've never been the most materialistic person in the world, and I definitely think when it comes to intention, where you have the intention behind what you're doing, the the intention matched up with the goal, I think, is also a key part. Where yeah, you can have your intention where I want to do this podcast, but the goal is, oh, so I can make a lot of money and buy a nice car. Then I don't know if that matches up necessarily with what the intention is.
Well, I think that that's a big piece, because I think that, you know, I like nice things. I always have. I would love to spoil myself, and
Yeah,
that's just, it's because that's what I like. But at the same time, if that was it, if I was being handed all the money in the world, I would not be content. So that's not my goal. That is something I like, but for me, and something that's helped me through my entire life, because even though I'm just becoming a full-time teacher this year, I have done a lot of volunteering to get myself here. and student teaching, and every ounce of that difference that I made, or that smile I put on a kid's face, made me feel a little better about myself. And so without my job, without my foundation, I wouldn't be able to be happy with just the monetary thing. So like you said, I think it is that goal that you eventually do have to get to, or work towards, but there are things in between.
Yeah. And
But quick fixes.
exactly. And like you said, I think if you don't enjoy what you're doing, and I know a lot of people don't enjoy what they're doing. And that's a harsh reality where they get so focused on, oh, I don't enjoy my career first and foremost. They focus solely on their career.
Right.
There's still a lot of hours left in the day. And even when you're doing your career, there's a lot of outside aspects that can go into it. Sure, you
Right.
maybe don't like your career, but just because you don't like your career doesn't mean that you have to treat your coworkers poorly. Doesn't mean that
Yeah.
you have to be cold towards your coworkers. Doesn't mean that you have to shut out the rest of the world and what's going on. Maybe if you're out on your lunch break, you can take a little bit of time just to talk to someone who works at the local market that you're going to. There's so many other ways that you can feel connected with the world around you besides being invested in your career. And I hope that everyone can get to a point where they can find a career that they love for themselves and they can throw themselves into, like you have with teaching. But I think until you get to that point, it's trying to find something that you can stick to, where you can find a route in. So especially with myself, I've been very fortunate. I like my career that I'm in right now, but I know as I progress, things will change. Maybe my circumstances will change. But what I know that I can always come back to is that I can always be kind to my coworkers. I can always be reaching out to my friends at the end of the day. I can always be my new initiative is trying to be more connected with my faith. I can always be more appreciative of what's going on in the world and all the gifts that God has given me. So no matter what's going on the outside, no matter if something's wrong with my career or something's wrong with some other aspect of my day, I always have that route to go back to. And I think you're very fortunate that you have that route in your career and you have that route in your outside life. And I think that certainly builds up confidence where you, like we said at the beginning of the show, that there's got to be something that you can go back to feel confident at all times. And it's awesome to hear that you have that in your career, especially as you just started. And
I was
I
going to say
think,
that to you. I was going to say that to you too, because I think that, you know, you even recognizing that your career, your life is going to change, but being able to say that, giving to other people and having that feeling of I did something good today is enough to carry more weight than a typical day on any job.
yeah,
Because that lasts you like a week of I was able to help someone drastically. And even if it wasn't drastic, someone dropped something and you picked it up. You know that that person's thinking about that.
yeah. And I also think what I've expanded on in terms of my thinking is any selfless action that we take. It, if we're being real with everyone, it has a selfish aspect to it, where
Yeah.
we do what's selfless because we like how we feel about it,
Mhm.
and I think that's human, human being, or
Human
however you said
beings.
it. But the part that I like to be hopeful of, and I don't know that it's true, but what I like to think of is if I continue to do stuff like this, if I continue to put out a message into the world of there's a lot of joy to be found, all you got to do is look in a different place, or you have to interact differently with people. You have to be nicer to who you interact with. Maybe that person takes that and runs with it and goes and does it to another person, and they keep building upon it. And you never know how many people you're going to affect down the line just by taking one little action that, yeah, maybe it makes you feel good, but you never know the butterfly effect of what's going to happen because of something that you've done.
I always
And
say to my kids, just go in with a smile.
yeah,
Because if you go in with a face that says that you're not interested, they're going to carry that.
yep,
Maybe they won't think too much about your smile, but they will certainly think about that negative look you gave them. I said, it's not worth
absolutely.
it. It's
At
not
the
worth it.
When all is said and done, and now we're getting really deep, but if
When all
you're
is said and done,
yeah, it's it
agree.
it was just something I was thinking of. It popped up to my head because you said it. Jeez.
It's fair. It's fair.
But now I'm gonna feel bad if you don't like what I have to say. Now I'm losing confidence.
What
Jeez,
is it, Tommy?
we're coming full circle. When everything's all said and done, and someone reflects upon, how what it was like to have someone in their life, they're not gonna necessarily think of specific moments that took place. Maybe they will if something really sticks out, but it's gonna be how you made them feel. It's going
By
to
all means,
be that person always made me feel good. That person always made me smile. that person always made me feel joyful.
By
And
all means, my fourth grade teacher, Mr. Ramos, shout out. He was the best man in the world. I don't remember exactly the things that made me think that, but I know that I was safe with him. I knew that he cared for me, and that's
that's
what
it.
I remember.
Yeah. And I think I mean, that's certainly all I could ever ask for when
Hmm.
that's my goal at the end of the day is someone can say, yeah, cool dude. That's
Yeah,
it. I don't need much more than that.
better than she sucked.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that. The you're
But
when you're
sometimes,
looking down at your own box going in, and you're like, oh, thank
oh
God
man,
that person's gone. That'd be a tough way
it's all
to
right.
get
Then
off.
they wouldn't be there.
Yeah, that's true. I guess if you're, I don't know. Now we're getting a little funky. If you're a ghost, can you go wherever you want and like eavesdrop on conversations about what's what's going on?
Okay, redirect.
Yeah, I think it's a good time to cut it off now. If you had one little message to share with anyone who's in need of a little bit of confidence today, what's your one sentence summary of just trying to find a little bit of confidence?
Not everyone is going to love you, so stop trying to be a version of yourself that isn't you,
I like that.
because you will find those people that will love you for you. Why be someone you're not and be miserable all the time?
Why try to be someone and get love that is so temporary? It's not real love.
And that some people still won't love.
Yeah, that's very true. I
So
th-
why are you trying to be
I
someone?
did a topic on that. One of the first shows that I did where I talked about so many people will try to change themselves, whether they're trying to pursue someone, if they're trying to get someone at the bar or wherever. They'll talk in a certain way that they think someone might want to hear,
Mhm.
or they heard that this person's into something that they're completely not into, so they'll try to pick it up just for that one purpose. It's not worth it. It's not.
For
And
what?
why would you try to change? Yeah, I think we can obviously make positive changes to ourselves all the time. We can be healthier. We can start being more in tune with stuff that makes us feel good. But why would you try to change yourself solely because you want someone's admiration? That
Change
is,
yourself and bettering yourself are two separate things, I
oh
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh
so
yeah,
I mean, if you're going to put up a front about this, oh, I all of a sudden love sports and I know everything about this and that, it's not necessarily your reality. And if you try to do that, how long is that front going to last? As
yeah,
opposed to me and my New Year's resolutions of being healthier, which has lasted me a total of 3 days so far. But
yeah. Hey, that's
so
three more than
there's,
some people.
I'm proud of myself. But
I'm proud of you too. We can always be healthier. Yeah,
thanks. I think that's a great point to think of, though. Just, it's why change yourself if everyone's still not going to love you?
yeah.
Be what makes you happy, be who you are, and then you're going to get those people who will and those people who won't. And that's it.
That's life. That's life.
That's
Not everyone's gonna love you, and that's a harsh reality, but it's the truth.
it. Is
And
that
you
the hardest
shouldn't.
thing though? Do you
Do you
want those
want everyone
people
to
who
love
don't
you?
appreciate you to love you?
Do you want no? And love
If
has to be
you
earned.
don't
I
appreciate
in my
me, if you don't see what I bring, why do I need you?
exactly. And love is earned with a parent child relationship. A parent takes care of a child so much that they earn their love. A
Hmm.
family member is so in tune with the wants and needs of someone else in their family, whether it's a sibling or a cousin, that they
Yeah,
earn their love.
yeah.
I don't need or want the love of somebody who isn't a part of my life all the time, who doesn't know me on a personal level, and who's not going to be there for me when I need them the most. Thank you so much to Cassie for joining me today. It's so hard for the two of us to be serious anytime we're talking together, but I think we did a pretty good job of keeping it together for today. Once again, thank you all so much for checking out the R20s podcast. If you like what you hear and you want to hear more, definitely follow along and subscribe no matter what platform you're listening to your podcasts on, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you're checking us out on YouTube, subscribe, notification bell, all the cool YouTuber stuff, you know. Thank you once again. It is such a pleasure to produce this for all of you, and it's such a privilege to be able to do this. And I hope you could take away at least one bit from today's conversation, and you can go and improve your own level of confidence going forward. Until next time, I'll see you.